Day 39. Cape Egmont to Charlottetown. I woke up early in the morning, looked around to see what was left after last night's storm. The ground all around was soaking wet, and I was eager to get going right away. The van life couple from yesterday were still there, likely still asleep or trying to get some sleep. I didn't think that it would have been possible to sleep throughout such a horrendous storm, with thunder and lightning all around. But today seemed like a much better day. The sun was out, and the skies were mainly clear. I was unsure how the gravel road would be, but I took a chance as I had no other option. Surprisingly, despite numerous complaints, my beast made it through. Back on the highway, I continued driving clockwise, enjoying the beautiful views of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. As with most of my trip, I felt rushed to see everything and experience everything in as little time as possible. I looked at various landmarks that were close by, and I found the West Point Lighthouse. A short but scenic drive along the coast led me to this beautiful lighthouse. Prince Edward Island's shores were muddy red in color, and everywhere I felt the rush of the wind. The West Point Lighthouse is one of the many famous lighthouses in Atlantic Canada and one of the most famous on Prince Edward Island. Unfortunately, due to restrictions, it was not possible to enter. I arrived and it seemed deserted, aside from some caretakers on the lighthouse grounds. I suppose that this was the world that we lived in, with mandates and restrictions abound. But when would we return to normal? Would we ever return to normal? I didn't come out this far to ponder such ideas and thoughts, so I continued exploring. After a brief walk along the windy shores around the West Point Lighthouse, I returned to my beast to research what area I would see next. I decided to visit North Cape, which was the northwesternmost region of Prince Edward Island. After another short drive, and it seemed like everything on Prince Edward Island was a short drive, I arrived at the North Cape Lighthouse parking lot. Again, very few vehicles were here as I was quite early, and there were probably few, if any, visitors around. I stopped to look over the beautiful red shore and the Gulf of St. Lawrence beyond. I walked over to a legend that displayed different places to visit, but I was certain most of them would not even be open. I walked the grounds with the sun shining down on my face and the wind blowing through my hair. I truly enjoyed being by the ocean. There's something magical about it. I walked by a large number of Inukshuks that were placed along the shore. Certainly this would have been a very busy place during peak season. And technically this would have been peak season were it not for the global restrictions. The Inukshuks led me to believe that I should enjoy this peace and tranquility to myself, as in the future this beach would be crowded with visitors. After soaking up the embrace of the Atlantic, I walked back to my beast. It was time to eat and I was quite hungry and I haven't had breakfast. I continued driving clockwise, close to the shore, and now heading southeast. After about an hour, I arrived in Kensington, where I filled up my beast, grabbed some average at best fast food, and continued onward. The countryside of Prince Edward Island was truly beautiful, much more than Manitoba or Saskatchewan due to the proximity of the ocean. I had to stop several times to take pictures of this surprisingly beautiful scenery. After a short drive, I arrived at the Anne of Green Gables Museum. This was probably the most famous of all places on Prince Edward Island, and the main thing that Prince Edward Island is known for, aside from potatoes. I was surprised how a legend had so many languages explaining the museum, but given its worldwide recognition, it made sense. I didn't actually enter the museum, despite it being open, as I never followed Anne of Green Gables myself. It was cool to say that I had been here, though, and perhaps in the future I may actually pay a visit. The museum grounds themselves were beautiful and well kept, and there was a traditional feel of the Maritimes with the large, tall house on a massive lot. I returned to my beast where I decided to visit another lighthouse along the coast of Prince Edward Island. I set my destination for the nearby Cape Tryon Lighthouse and drove over. I was so surprised by how everything was close by. Unlike back in Victoria where the traffic was bad, or even worse, Vancouver or Toronto, where I experienced being stuck for hours. My GPS led me through a rural area that had dirt roads in fairly poor condition. Again, my beast was not happy about this. I found myself in the parking lot at the entrance of another dirt road with even worse condition. From here, I would trek by foot down towards the lighthouse and the ocean beyond. Trying not to get too muddy or too dirty, I had to sidestep and hop over puddles in many areas. As I was getting closer to the lighthouse, the wind picked up to the point where it was almost deafening. I finally arrived at the lighthouse to find that I was not the only visitor. While it seemed to be a blessing to be able to visit places without crowds, there were times when it felt odd with the eerily silent surroundings. The lighthouse itself had been long since automated, so there was no possibility of entering or exploring. I did, however, explore the surrounding area and its steep cliffs. There was a small wire fence that was meant to prevent visitors from exploring the dangerous shoreline, but that did not deter me or anybody else there. I hopped the fence and walked over to the cliffs, peering down into the ocean below. A small misstep would have definitely led to major injury, if not death itself, so I was rather cautious. Looking to the east and looking to the west, I seen such beauty in the landscape that was shaped by nature's forces over time. The muddy red color of the soil seemed to be the symbol of Prince Edward Island. The iron-rich soil had a red hue due to its exposure to oxygen in the air. My first time being here on Prince Edward Island was definitely delightful. And again, it came as a gift that I would be able to visit this lovely province upon its recent reopening to the remainder of Canada. While Vancouver Island itself had stunning, rugged landscape, it was vastly different to the reddish cliffs here on Prince Edward Island. I walked closer to a rocky formation jutting out into the Gulf of St. Lawrence, being careful not to fall to my demise. I held out my hands to embrace the Atlantic Ocean with all of its beauty. While I could not call Prince Edward Island my home, I would always call Atlantic Canada my home regardless, having have grown up in both Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. I felt that Canada's smallest province was a gem in the Atlantic, even if I've only spent such a short period of time here, and I haven't even seen the capital yet. The sounds of the wind rushing over me and the waves crashing onto the rocks below was a reminder of how brutal nature could be. Looking at the cliffs, I could imagine how much further out they would have been long ago. This could have been a beach in front of me at one time, only to be eroded into cliffs. I enjoyed my time here, walked around the lighthouse, and then I began my trek back to my beast. From here, I would take another short drive to Cavendish, where I would explore Avonlea Village. Given that Prince Edward Island, like the remainder of Atlantic Canada, just recently opened up, I did find that I was not the only visitor. However, I could imagine during peak season and under normal circumstances, this village would be packed. Avonlea Village, like most of everything on Prince Edward Island, had a Anne of Green Gables theme. Everything was well maintained, historic, and carried a quaint and cozy feeling. I didn't know the history of Avonlea Village, but it seemed like these buildings were once barns that were converted into modern shops while keeping tradition alive. I stopped by a shop and treated myself to a lobster roll. Quite expensive, but it was delicious as I expected. After having my lobster lunch, I walked around the village to explore more shops. I strongly considered having ice cream, especially since the weather was quite warm, but I was so full from the lobster roll I had to walk past. After enjoying the scenery of Avonlea Village, I headed back to my beast where I took a quick nap. I was quite fatigued as last night's wild storm by the shore didn't leave me with quality rest. After waking and feeling rested, I headed over to the nearby Cavendish Cliffs. Again, I was greeted by reddish rocky cliffs, a signature of Prince Edward Island. The wind and water had battered the area over the course of time, exposing the mineral-rich soil. Prince Edward Island was surprising me more and more, and given my love for nature and the ocean, I felt quite welcome. Since I never lived here previously, I couldn't call it home. But could I in the future? I already said to myself throughout this trip that I could easily live in Toronto, as it had an exciting vibe. I could easily live in Montreal, as I loved the culture. I would one day live in Quebec City, as I loved the history. How about Prince Edward Island? I would not rule this out. What a lovely place to be. The quaint feeling of the villages, the homely feel of the friendly people, combined with the brutal but majestic forces of nature surrounding the province, would make for a lovely place to live. I continued walking along the pathway of the Cavendish Cliffs, escaping the troubles of life back in Victoria as the warm ocean breeze engulfed me and brought calm to my mind. The rocky red cliffs were nothing like I've ever seen before, and the landscape of Canada's smallest province was just as majestic as anywhere else. I headed back to my bees, taking a glimpse back at the Cavendish Cliffs as if to say I would return one day. Then I headed over to Prince Edward Island National Park. Located on the north shore of Prince Edward Island, this was the first national park I've been to in some time. I always wanted to feel connected to the nature throughout my trip, and I felt that this was the perfect place to be. From the parking lot, I walked down a path that was clear-cut through the trees, which eventually led me to the sandy, wind-swept Brackley Beach. While it was the midst of summer, the beach was quite barren, likely due to the restrictions in place, as well as less than idyllic beach conditions. I walked through the park, which I had practically all to myself, enjoying the environment around me. Perhaps the strong winds and the crashing waves were just a remnants of last night's storm. Or perhaps this was just another Friday on Prince Edward Island's North Shore. Either way, the brutal forces of nature were ever present everywhere on Prince Edward Island. But along with the brutal forces of nature was the majestic beauty of nature itself. Where the lush greenery met the ocean was a sandy beach with fallen trees as a reminder of the cycle of life. I continued onwards until reaching the western end of the trail, where an opening led to a couple of Adirondack chairs overlooking the Gulf of St. Lawrence. It felt good. No, it felt great to be here. To be with nature, exploring Avonlea Village, to see lighthouses and the warm embrace of Prince Edward Island. Thank you for sharing in my experience. If you enjoyed my video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would truly appreciate you sharing my video on your social network as it helps my channel grow. Be sure to check my playlist to see different categories on my exciting adventures I'm sharing with the world. Life is an adventure. Let's share this experience together.